All right. Welcome again to another streaming episode here. And we're going to just continue with our last talk, which is some of the most common mistakes that parents make. So before we get started, just a couple things here. Like I said, we're still working on a lot of different things. I think some people have asked for visual aids and things like that. We're not the most technically savvy folks over here. And so we'll look at including those visual aids for the future for sure to kind of help gain a better understanding of some of the things that we're talking about. All of our streams and the things that we're going to be talking about will all be at very basic levels to start. And then as people gain a better and better understanding of the groundwork of the things that we're talking about, then the topics will get more and more complex as we go. So back on topic then, the mistakes that parents make, okay? One of the common things that we tend to see is that parents like to talk to their kids, right? Like, oh, they want to talk and talk and talk. And what we find is that parents talk too much. They rely on talk as the main driver of changing their child's behaviors. What we're not talking about is we're not saying, oh, don't talk to your kids. That's not what we're saying. We're not saying like, oh, you shouldn't explain things to your kids. However, most parents, when they make a mistakes in talking, is they use too much language. They're over relying on explanations and talking as the main point of teaching. Parents think that just if their child can just understand the situation, if they just can understand that what you did hurt my feelings, if you just understand that what you did hurt me, if what you just did something, if you just understood the ramifications of it, it will lead you to stop doing what you're doing. But that's rarely ever true. That's not true for kids, and it's not true for most adults as well. It might be true for like a very small segment, but for the most part, we don't change because we understand something better. It's rare for us to do. There are some people that can do it, but most of us can't, okay? Which means that, oh, I can really understand that, oh, I should go out and exercise. I think, oh, exercise is really good for me. Whether I do it or not has nothing to do with my understanding of it. I can understand that exercise is good for me, and whether I do it or not, that's a completely different thing altogether. So getting a child to understand something does not equal them being able to do it. What you'll find is that a lot of things that we're talking about, we're going to go back over some of the other mistakes that parents make, right? Which is that, oh, okay, as we go and we explain a lot of things, the thing is that what's lacking is actually the teaching component, and how we learn is through the consequences of our actions. Like, oh, what we do and then the consequences of those actions change our behaviors, right? So if the child does something, then there needs to be an appropriate consequence for that action. And generally as parents, then we are overprotective of our kids. So sometimes we don't let them feel the full ramifications of their actions. And so we buffer them from feeling those effects. And by taking those effects away, then we're minimizing their ability to learn from those situations. So how do you remedy that? Talk less, do more. Right? That's the simplest thing, okay? Which is like, oh, when you need to explain something, explain it succinctly. Okay, be clear about your expectations, be clear about what you want the child to do, but don't overdo it. Don't talk too much about it, and then let the consequences and let your actions speak for you. If your child needs help to learn something, show them how to do it. Okay, if showing them doesn't work, then grab their hands, help them understand how to do something. Okay. That's what you're going to do. Don't rely on just talking and talking and talking and talking as the main way for your child to learn something. Now, another problem that we come across frequently is when parents face a certain problem, they're looking for a lot of extreme solutions for those type of problems. Like rather than look basic, they go into more far-reaching, far out there type of solutions for easy, basic problems. So one of our clients before, their child was had a really hard time having bowel movements, right? Which means like, oh, this child would only have like one time every week, and they'd be rock hard and they'd be uncomfortable for the child and all of these kind of things. And she went to doctors, she looked into probiotics, vitamins, looked across like the whole spectrum of different types of treatments and things like that. Okay. What solved the child's problems? Was eating more vegetables. Okay, like then he started to have bowel movements regularly on an everyday basis. Okay, but I think like a lot of parents fall into this trap of looking for extreme solutions for very basic kind of problems. Another client of ours came to us with a lot of sleep problems. Oh, my child has a hard time falling asleep. He has a hard time staying asleep. All very concerned about a whole host of other things, which is including like, self-stimulatory behaviors and all of this kind of stuff, right? And so, they were looking at addressing all of the self-stimulatory behaviors, but they didn't actually look at addressing the sleep problems themselves, okay? And then when we looked into the sleep problem, we asked mom like, okay, so what time does your child go to bed? Oh, sometimes it's like 7:30, sometimes it's 8:30, sometimes it's midnight. Like it depends on the day because like, we're out and about, we're busy with our lives, we're doing stuff, and then we get home. Sometimes he's too tired, so I put him to bed right away. Sometimes we take a shower. So it's all over the board in terms of the consistency by which this child was being placed into bed, And now one of the most important things about sleep is something they call sleep hygiene. Okay. And sleep hygiene is where you go through the same routine every single day to prep yourself to go to sleep because you're training your body to get tired at the same time. Okay. So for people that are very regimented, like, people that always wake up at a certain time, you train your body to wake up, and sometimes you wake up before your alarm does. For people that are extremely regular about eating lunch at a particular time, you start to get hungry at a particular time, even before that, before you're right at the time that you're supposed to eat. Right? The same thing happens with sleep, which is like, sleep is about building regularity in. Okay. And so this mom was looking into different things like weighted blankets and all of these kind of other types of solutions to it, rather than just her own like, what are my habits? What do I do on an everyday basis? And just working on those things where it's just like, okay, every single day we're going to bed at the same time. I'm going through the same routine. So we're going to go, you're going to take a bath, then you'll have a little snack, then you'll like whatever it is, but having that routine be on a daily basis in the same sequence, in the same way, and that helps train the body over the longer term to start building rhythmic regularity so that they can more easily fall asleep. So now another problem that we tend to run into is parents that see problems that are non-existent. Okay, and so what I mean by that is like they see something as a problem when this is something that all parents experience, or this is something that's a very regularly part of being a child, or those kind of things. So we've had situations where a parent was not feeding their child enough, but they thought they were overfeeding. They were worried this oh my god, my child's not going to eat, my child's going to overeat and things like that. But if you take a look at this child was incredibly skinny. incredibly so, but they were worried that they're going to overfeed this child. So they're overly worried about things that are non-existent. I think it's different if they are like, oh, we consulted with the doctor, this is how much, a child his age, his weight should be eating, and he's eating way beyond that. And it's resulting in problems. So we're seeing cholesterol go up, we're seeing this go up, we're seeing no, it's none of it is actually based on anything real. It's based on a parent's fears or their perceptions. Okay. And we talked about perceptions. Most of the time your perceptions are going to be wrong. Okay. And so that's the thing, is like, oh, when you take a look at a problem, is it an actual problem, or is it something that you're seeing but it's not an actual thing?